Morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Apex Racing TV's coverage of the iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship here for round number 9 of the championship here at Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace here in Brazil. My name is Scott Newton, and alongside me as always is Daniel Leet. Welcome, Daniel. A little bit of a later timed race tonight, but looking forward to a cracking event here tonight.
Yeah, good evening, Scott, and all the viewers tuning in. Yeah, certainly looking forward to this one. I think the tracking is probably going to play a little bit more in the favour of the cars tonight, and we're probably going to see some interesting strategies evolve over the course of the race as a result of that. But all in all, no doubt the guys have put on a fantastic show as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just heading into the final third of the championship, and yeah, what a cracking season we've had so far in the first 8 rounds, coming through last week at, I can't remember the name of the track. It's been a long week, but yeah, certainly looking forward to the final 4 rounds of the season as well. We've got a huge field here tonight, 35 cars on the track as well. I think if there had been one more sign up, it would have been pushed to 2 splits, so it's going to be a lot of action out here tonight. Quite a number of DP Dead Center prototypes as well, which is certainly something that we haven't seen all season, so it's absolutely great to see.
Yeah, it's great to have the Daytonas back out on the track. I think we've got 5 entered in the race tonight, so really good to see the participation up a little bit higher for this event. Looks like we've got a couple of regular drivers out there as well across both the GTE and GT3 classes as well, which is going to be great viewing for all those tuning and watching as well. But yeah, great to have a full field of everyone out there.
We've got 3.25 minutes left of qualifying at the moment. Everyone trying to put in their times as we speak. We've got Cam Dance on screen at the moment, trying to improve on his 1 minute 26.99 first attempt, as he's coming around the long sweeping couple of kinks to come onto the start finish line. And does he improve, hugging the wall on the inside there? And he does. He puts it on provisional pole position with a 25.69. Just also in the GTEs we've got Loic Groen currently on his second attempt at the moment. Actually going a little bit wider than I would have thought he would be. But does he improve on his 1 minute 28.5? He does by just over a tenth, so he doesn't improve any position, but he still stays third, which is still great to see from him. Mehmet Sadikoglu in the BMW M8, currently sitting in 10th position. He won't improve because he's on his 3rd lap of the session. So in the GT3s, currently got Adam Simpson on screen at the moment, and I think he's just aborted his lap. Ferris Stanley, driver of Satellite Racing, will he improve on his 27.2? And no, he doesn't. So actually that's a cracking time from Ferris Stanley compared to Piesnik, who's 1.06 seconds quicker. So he must have certainly got something in the setup there tonight.
Yeah, a little surprised to see such a gap, first to second in that GT3 field, or GTE field. Sorry, we know how good John Piesnik is. He's shown at a couple of events throughout the season tonight, but for Stanley to have himself that much of a gap through qualifying, it's either very low fuel or the car dialed in exceptionally well for him there. But great to see nonetheless.
Yeah, certainly. Ronnie Killian, if I can find the correct driver, and does he improve on his 32.2? And he does to a 32.0, but sadly does not move up a position. But it looks as though that everyone that has set times has qualified. I've got Jim Carr on the screen now, but he will not be able to have time to finish his lap, as he's only got 20 seconds left in the server and in the session, and He's all the way through turn 7, heading through turn 8. He's not going to be able to get his lap time in, so he will start in the 28th position overall and 7th in class. And I was just looking at Marco Barcelos, but yeah, he did not get the opportunity to set a time in this session. But we'll be able to bring you through the grid here tonight for round number 9 of the iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship. So Cam Dance takes the overall pole position with a time of 1 minute 25.692, and alongside him is Mick Grieve. Chris Harvey starts third, Shannon Williams in fourth, and Andreas Hecht in the 5th position. In the GTEs, Fresh Stanley takes the pole position, a whopping 1.05 seconds ahead of John Peasnick. Loic Guerin in third, Zen Bishop in fourth, Vincent Martin in the 5th position. In the 6th was Giovanni Pacifici. Peter Coulson in 7th, Hudson McHale in 8th, Renato Haberman in 9th, and rounding out the top 10 is Fabrice Renault. Mehmet Sadikoglu in the 11th, Thomas Duncan in the 12th position, Tino Gosselin in 13th, Lucas Rowland in the 14th position, Vernon Wiley in the 15th position, Petteri Alto in the 16th position, Taylor Nabaum, series regular, in the 17th position. Luca Fiocchi in the 18th position, Samuel Griffin rounding out the GTE field in 19th. In the GT3s, Clint Smith takes the pole position, Futatsu Uri in the 2nd position, Adam Simpson in the 3rd, Ronnie Killian in the 4th position, Ola Sandqvist in the 5th position, Rui Anyos in the 6th position, Osmar Schultz 7th, Alexander Campbell takes the 8th grid slot, Peter Edwards in the 9th position, Jim Carr and Marco Barcelos rounding out the field.
It's a pretty strong field out there, must be said. Looks like all the guys getting away. We're starting to get that little bit of separation between the classes at the moment. DPI just working their way down through turn 8, turn 11, sorry, so not far from finishing off the lap. Looks like a lot of guys running similar livery at the Red Bull Daytona prototype cars there, so it'll be a bit interesting to keep an eye out on how those cars run. GTE and GT3 both likewise pretty well positioned on track here, so getting ready for the start momentarily. The pace car will pull off, and 45 minutes tonight around here, Scott. It's going to certainly be very interesting. One pit stop as always, and no doubt the racers will be really looking forward to see what they can do with the weather conditions.
Absolutely. Be able to bring you the weather a little bit later on once we get underway, but I think it's around about a 6:30 p.m. simulated time, so it'll be pretty interesting to see whether the night time will be affecting the drivers tonight. But pace car's about to pull in and we'll be able to get underway. And Cam takes the green flag and gets a great jump. Mick Grieve holding into the 2nd position. See the number 8 car of Andreas Hecht in going side by side into turn 1. The GTE's Fresh Stanley for Satellite Racing alongside with John Peasnick, but gets the jump into turn 1. I was a bit of contact a little bit further back. Timing screen going all over the place. As you see that biggest movements to take is Fabrice Renault has fallen down quite a fair bit, as in the GT3s Clint Shane Smith has taken the lead for Tatsu Uri in the 2nd position, Adam Simpson holding on to 3rd position. Biggest mover and shaker in the GT3s at the moment is Marco Barcelos.
Yeah, it looked like a little bit of an untidy start there in the GT3 class. We saw one of the Porsches going off into turn one, and then just as we cut back to the GT3, it looks like a couple more guys down in towards the fence on pit exit there. So we'll see how that unfolds. Looks like everyone's got back underway, but up front at the moment, Clint leading the GT3 class, currently sitting, I believe, in the 12th position overall. 14th position, and first in class, so doing quite well out there again, stretching a bit of a lead and not too far off the back of that GT3 field, just ahead of him there, which you can just see in the bottom of frame as the guys working their way through the final corner, start the long run up towards the start-finish line. But Vincent Martin dropped down a little bit from where he'd started, currently sitting 10th overall, and looks like a little bit of damage on the front of that Ferrari.
Yeah, may have been a little bit of contact at the start of turn one. Looks as though that is Zen Bishop 2 places ahead of him. He may have been involved in that turn one pile-up as well. Well, it wasn't a pile-up, but it was certainly a big first corner incident where there was lots of jostling in the GTEs. A little bit further ahead, Thomas Duncan had Lucas Rowland all over the back of him, but it seemed to pull a gap through turn 4.
Yeah, I think the Porsche probably going to be very strong here through some of the slow to medium corners that we see. We know the Ferrari definitely going to have the outright pace, and it was evident through qualifying. And obviously at the start with Stanley and Peasnick starting to build a little bit of a gap over second place. But I think the Porsche could be a bit of a surprise factor, especially through that slower mid-quarter section as we see them working through now. The engine over the rear is certainly going to help aid traction getting out of there.
Just looking at the front of the field at the moment, Cam Dance has opened up a 1.1 second lead over Mick Grieve. This battle on screen right now is Chris Harvey and Andreas Hecht. Only just over 0.5 of a second separated between those two drivers. Andreas was about 0.7 of a second quicker than Chris Harvey last time around. 26.7 for Hecht, comparing that to Harvey of a 27.4. So a lot of pace out there for Andreas at the moment.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of these guys in the car, so not overly familiar with how they get a liking for the DPI, but they are certainly a little bit off the pace relative to Cam Dance. He's opened up quite a good lead at the moment of just over a second and a half, as you can see him up on screen at the moment. And Cam probably very similar to Blake, who we used to see in the car a lot last season, very comfortable with that Daytona prototype and getting the most out of it, as we saw in qualifying there and continuing through the first portion of the race.
Yeah, certainly with the fastest second sector on this lap, he's on target to set another fastest lap. Looking at the splits, pulled another probably 3 or 4 tenths at least on Mick Grieve this time around. So come across the line now, 26.2 for Cam Dance and a 26.9 for Grieve. So another 7 tenths opened up on this lap.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something we'll continue to watch throughout the course of the race. Ronnie Killen in a pretty fierce battle here at the moment. He's got that's Yuri just behind, running off track there a bit, and they got a little bit of competition with some GTE cars coming through. That's the Ford of Samuel Griffin in the back of frame there, getting through, and one of the Porsches, Mikhail Hudson, after his earlier contact and spin on the exit of turn 2, making a bit of a recovery drive. Currently sitting 11th in class at the moment, 17th overall, so a lot of work for him to do getting back up to the pointy end of the field.
Yeah, certainly with that Ford of Samuel Griffin just making the overtake on Adam Simpson. It's not for a position in class, but still a position overall.
Yeah, when we watch that, it's interesting to see already that GT3 gap already increasing. Clint Smith a long way up the road, 8.5 seconds at the moment, and again, really proving just how on top of the setup in that Mercedes AMG. We had a couple of questions in the chat early on asking how they can be so quick. Well, we've seen it over quite a few races this season, clearly able to match it, and if not, show up some of the guys driving that GTE car. So very comfortable in the GT3 at the moment, and he's not too far off the back of Vincent Martin. Up ahead that gap, only a couple of seconds, and we'll probably catch sight of Vincent as we sweep through the frame. There he is, and not a lot left for Clit to be able to gain another spot and move further up the overall standings.
It's battle for the mid-pack of the GTEs at the moment, 6th, 7th and 8th in class. Tino Gosselin, Thomas Duncan and Luca Fiocchi. BMW and 2 Porsches in this mix here. Gosselin last time around was a little bit quicker than Thomas Duncan, but Fiocchi last time was 29.4, so he's got some cracking pace in this little battle here.
Yeah, Fiocchi's been coming on reasonably strong in the last few rounds, really starting to get an eye in with the Porsche and learning the handling characteristics of that car. And he's a little probably further down ideally than where he'd like to be. Currently 8th in class, but having said that, has moved up 10 positions already from where he started as a result of some of that earlier contact. So plenty of room for him to progress further forward, and not that far off the back of the Porsche ahead of Thomas Duncan there. So we could see these guys really starting to scrap it out as Duncan loses the front end on the exit of turn number 12, and that's going to hurt him just a little bit as they run up the hill towards the start-finish line.
See if we can go on board. Fiocchi's taking the inside line against Duncan, and he's passed. And will he be able to take the line into turn 1? I think he just leaves a bit of extra space for Duncan, and he inherits the 7th position in class. So a good move there from Fiocchi, capitalising on that mistake from Duncan at Yunsao.
Yeah, we're just keeping an eye on the timing screen as we keep watching Fiocchi trying to retain that position. So we've got quite a lot of cars already in the lane. Hudson McHale's come in, Andreas Hutch, one of the DPI cars, is in as well. And looks like we potentially have a few retirements down there. A lot of guys in for about 4 to 5 minutes as well. So Zen Bishop, one of those. Peter Colson, Fabrique Renault, and Taylor Nadibble. I think those guys were all involved in earlier incidents right at the start of that race, and really hindered what could have been a good run for them.
So this was Andreas Hecht coming into turn 1. Oh, he's just lost the back end, and oh, that's a huge shunt, and that's created the concertina effect of the other 2 drivers in Harvey and Shannon Williams. So it's an unfortunate mistake there from Andreas Hecht, who is in the pit lane, and I would suspect that he is out of the race here tonight.
Yeah, surprising to see the back end go around like that. Ideally, with this circuit, and Scott, you would know better than anyone else, you have a really late entrance in through turn 1 to try and square the corner off and get the best exit through turn 2. It's a very tricky corner to get right, and in these cars, especially the DPI, where you don't have any ABS assist, as we see Shannon Williams locking up and running wide through turn 6, it's a very easy one to lose the car like that.
Yeah, certainly. We'll see if we can go on board with one of the Porsches. Just give you a bit of a detail in turn 1. See, you come over the rise. That was that's certainly not what Patari Alto would have liked to have seen. It's one of the GT3s coming up alongside him. See if we can get a. I think it was just due to the straight line speed of the Mercedes, and yeah, he's just lost it under control, and yeah, fired it into the wall, and certainly a shame for the number 15 car of Sandfis as well. He finds himself into the pit lane as well. So just as I was about to go on board with someone to describe the entry to turn 1, because it's absolutely tricky to get right. I had a a couple of instances where I lost the braking point on Saturday in a league race that almost cost me first place in that one. But yeah, the characteristic of the turn number one is you've got to be as late as you can on the brakes, but because of the nature of the track where it falls away, you've got to make sure that you don't pinch the front tyre and it sends it back around. And where you lose control, which is what happened to Andreas Hecht a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, I think it's that element of managing the fronts, especially around Interlagos. It's a circuit that you can run many lines through it. There's, I think, 3 or 4 lines through turn one, only one of them being a really preferred line. Similarly, through this portion of the track, turns 6 and 7, you can run multiple lines through here. And each plays to their own strengths and advantages, and that sort of adds with the drivers having to get the most out of these cars. But can certainly bring reasonably talented and skilled drivers to their knees, and probably will continue to for a long way to go now. Giovanni Pacifici in his Ferrari continuing on, sitting third outright overall. A little further down overall position, he's got himself quite a gap between John Peasnick, about 8.5 seconds at the moment, so a lot of work for him to do. John Peasnick very close on the back of Ferris Stanley. There's only 0.8 of a second between those two cars in class at the moment as well, and they, I think, will be pretty well locked together the majority of this race, looking at just how consistent the lap times are. Last time by between both drivers, a 1:28.15 for Stanley, and John Peasnick doing a 1:28.13, so nearly identical between them.
Yeah, certainly they've got Chris Harvey just up ahead of them. 28.3 for Harvey last time around. I think he's just going to let them go. He's realised that he's just not that up to pace, so he's let the GTE leaders go.
Yeah, that's smart driving too. You don't really need to be involved in battles outside of class that aren't really going to get you anywhere. Harvey currently finds himself third overall in class, a long way off pace, and we see him potentially going to come in the lane, also sporting a little bit of damage on that rear wing end plate as well, which will overall hurt him. But we'll jump on board here for a lap with Peasnick and just show you just how quick the Ferrari is around Interlagos. That was a great on-board lap there with John Peasnick. Really get a sense of just how hard it is for the drivers coming through the final portion of the lap through turns 12, 13, and on the run up towards the little kink in 14 with the sun beating in on them. Got a few guys asking if we can possibly pull up the weather just to see how that was, being late afternoon. I think we were looking around 27-degree track temp, 25 ambient, and that'll continue to fall as we are just nearing 6:45 sim time at the moment. So look for the temperatures to come down later on once the drivers do come in for their stops and tyres cool off a little bit as they get the refuel, which will only be quite short. That will also lead later on to some quicker lap times from all these guys out here. Peasnick, though, looks to have dropped off a touch from the back of Stanley. That gap last time by when we looked was only 0.8 of a second. It's increased now out to the 1.8 seconds. So Peasnick maybe not liking the car where it is at the moment, but we know just how strong Ferris is, and he's really come on strong over the last few seasons.
Yeah, definitely. I've had the pleasure of racing Ferris Stanley in the Super Races Asia GTE series a couple of seasons ago, and yeah, he was astonishingly quick even back then. So to see how he's progressed in that time has been astonishing for him, and certainly deserves all the credit for that, as he's currently leading here with just over 16 and 3/4 minutes completed.
Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job. I think he'll continue to apply the pressure here and try and break that toe and draft that Peasnick would generally be getting on the uphill. I think it's evident to see that gap still steadily increasing, and for whatever reason, John's not able to hold pace, about 0.4 of a second off last lap. So I think he's probably suffering a little bit with the front tyres around here. A lot of load, especially as they run up through turns 6, 7, and 8, where we see the guys now on circuit. The car does really want to understeer through there, and it's very hard to keep those tyres in check. A little bit of GT3 traffic just stepping sideways. It's a smart move just to let that fight go. That was Peter Edwards just letting John go through there. So some very smart driving from the competition as they're being lapped here.
See if we can find another battle on the track. We've got battle for second and third in GT3s at the moment. Ronnie Killian and Adam Simpson on screen at the moment. Killian running a little bit wide. They would have liked through Ferradura. Turn number 6 through 7. You can actually cut a lot of that inside curb there, but Killian not electing to run it. Has got our overall leader Cam Dance in the frame as well, trying to make his way around some traffic. Don't think he's going to be able to do that right now. He's going to have to wait until the end of Yunsao. He's going to go up the inside now. So Killian realising that he's about to get lapped and allows the leader through.
Yeah, that will hurt him just a little bit. Maybe able to get a bit of the draft there, but a long way further down. Back in the pack, Samuel Griffin on screen at the moment. He has, I think that's Furman Wiles just behind him. We've got one of the GT3 cars of Ajun Anos just behind there, as these guys are scrapping down at the moment over 14th and 15th overall, 6th and 7th in class respectively. So they're a little further down ideally than what they'd like. Quite a long gap between themselves and Vincent Martin, currently in the 7th position, but plenty of racing still going on.
And there's a couple of other battles as well. We've got Clint Smith has overtaken Chris Harvey, and the only other battle at the moment is everyone's pretty much spread out at this time. We've got Tino Gosselin and Thomas Duncan. This battle's been going on for a good 5 or 6 laps now. Gosselin last time around 30.6 and was able to pull out a 9/10 gap over Duncan last time around with a 31.5.
Yeah, that's part of the benefit too we've seen with the BMW throughout the entirety of this season. It's very good on the tyres, and as the race progresses longer on, 20 minutes already in, they're going to get a lot of advantage later on. Obviously, a lot of drivers will not take tyres, being a 45-minute race. Not enough time really to get any benefit from that, but that's certainly something that does help the BMW. We saw it last week, and we've seen it in a couple of other series, especially the AMF series on Sunday night, that some of those drivers get a big advantage in running that BMW, so look for that to be very strong. Having said that, Thomas Duncan not a long way behind. The gap obviously still extending a little bit further here, but keeping in touch relatively well. Lap times overall pretty comparative, although last time by saying that a bit under a second slower, so could be suffering a little bit in the back end, or maybe not just getting the turn in that he requires in that car early on.
Yeah, certainly. I think there was an overtake on lap number 12, which is the reason why the delta has shifted to nearly 1.3 seconds at the end of lap number 14. So it must have potentially been a mistake from Duncan, or whether that's just the sheer pace of Gosselin. He's got 6.7 seconds up the road to the next drive over Luca Fiocchi.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that and see how the pace does unfold. What we might do before we get into pit stops, as we near towards the midway point, we might quickly jump through overall positions in all classes at the moment. As you see up front, Cam Dance increasing his lead 9.5 seconds at the moment over Mick Grievous in second Daytona prototype there. Third in class at the moment is Shannon Williams as well. He's had a little bit of difficulty early on and dropping down with a pretty big gap to second place. Overall GTE at the moment, Ferris Stanley, we mentioned a couple of times now, having a very strong race tonight. Currently first in class, got himself a good gap of about 3 seconds over John Peasnick, and that's no mean feat, and currently third overall. John Peasnick sitting down in the fourth overall, second in class, having another good, solid, consistent run for himself there. And third, Giovanni Pacifici, again, another Ferrari. So 3 Ferraris in the top 10, and a good, strong showing for him as well. Overall GTE class leader, no surprises here. Clint Smith doing another fantastic job out front of that category. Finds himself 14th overall, and up 11 spots from where he started, so a fantastic run for him there. Second tonight is Adam Simpson, another Mercedes AMG, 15th overall, and third position in class will be Ronnie Killen, and he finds himself 16th overall. So pretty good spread of all the cars out there tonight, and great to see a lot of variety, although we say variety, it is three groups of cars, but some good manufacturers and good driving from all the guys out there so far.
Yeah, with the GT3s, that's mostly dominated by the Mercedes. I think it must have got a favourable BOP adjustment as to why pretty much all of the cars are being Mercedes in the GT3 class. But it's great to see that Marco Barcelos taking the Audi for this race, as he's about to get lapped by the 17 car of Giovanni Pacifici, and is at Loic Guerin as well. So battle for third and fourth in GTE has closed right up as well, and the 4/10 of a second separated by these two.
Yeah, it's a good strong fight here starting to come on. We're not too far nearing away from pit stop, so we'll look to keep an eye on these two and see how they go. Pacifici just a little bit better just on the initial phase through turn 7, able to extend a little bit more of a gap. However, Goran does come back at him a little bit through turn 8 and 9, and see that gap continue to stay pretty close, but not a lot between these guys at the moment, as you say, only 0.4 of a second, and they will start fighting it out pretty much from now on. Ronnie Killen just jumped in the lane for his stop as well in the GT3, so probably nearing about the optimal time where these drivers are going to start looking for their pit stops overall.
Well, the biggest group of drivers that have pitted is everywhere from about 19th overall back. Alexander Campbell is the only driver not to have pitted in that group, but as you say, yeah, the pit stops are just about to happen. We're 25 and 3/4 minutes in. It's Guerin getting right under the back of Pacifici. but ultimately costing him the run through the back into the centre S.
Yeah, it looks like Pacifici just a little bit slower on the mid-corner run there through turn 1. Actually backed up a little bit and was able to get away nicely on the exit of turn 2 and through the Curva de Sol, number 3 on the run down to the back straight there. So working well with the positioning of that car, and if he's able to continue doing that, he should be able to hold 3rd position overall relatively easily. Having said that, Guerrero probably will be awake to that move now and look to potentially maybe hold it a little bit tighter down through 1, or potentially look to get the run off the exit of 3 there. So we'll keep an eye on this and see how it unfolds. But both these guys very equally matched right now.
He's got Vincent Martin trying to make the move on Shannon Williams for the 12th overall. But with being GTE versus Daytona Prototype, I think it would be quite difficult for Martin to get that overall position. Shannon Williams has just gone through the pit lane on the last lap as Pacifici has taken to the pit lane. That promotes Guerin up into the 3rd position.
Yeah, 28 minutes throughout the course of the race has probably been about the ideal time that we've seen a lot of these drivers come down for their respective stops, and knowing how long you are on the throttle around Interlagos is probably not a bad idea. But obviously a lot of guys can play with the fuel, so we may see them eke out a little bit more, especially in the GT3 and E's. But at the moment, about 28 minutes seems to be at the ideal time where most of these guys will start pitting, as we see Clint Smith ducking in for his stop, and potentially will drop out of the lead here of the GT3 field momentarily while stops are underway. We'll keep an eye on Adam Simpson to see whether he's likely to come down the lane, but a lot of gap there between both Smith and Simpson.
And Simpson's into the pit lane. Actually quite a bit of braking distance needed to make that pit entry as late as possible. You do get the advantages of going up the hill, but obviously a little bit further braking distance than you would need in a Formula car, but gets it slowed down. And good job from Simpson. He will find himself, I think, come out in the 4th position, because Killian's just about to come across the start-finish line now, and Simpson's just exiting the pit lane onto the back straight, heading up into turn 4.
Keep an eye on that just to see how that one unfolds. Looks like Pacifici potentially going to come down the lane. No, it retains it out there for another lap. He's got a couple of DPI cars trying to make a move. A little bit of a battle going on behind there with Shannon Smith and Chris Harvey scrapping it out. These guys fighting over 3rd and 4th respectively on track at the moment.
I think Pacifici trying to protect his track position, but I think that overall that's going to cost him time to Guerin, who is currently up into Bico de Pato to number 10. He's got a bit of GT3 traffic. The car number 29, that's Peter Edwards. But we're coming up to 30 minutes elapsed and roughly about 10 seconds time, so top 3 have not pitted as of yet. Mick Grieve is the first driver overall to have pitted.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. It also looks like keep an eye on Cameron Dance. He's just managed to get past Chris Harvey and Shannon Williams as well. So he's lapped all the way up to 2nd overall at the moment. Another night very reminiscent of what we saw from Blake Neck earlier in the season, being very committed in that car and getting a lot of advantage out of it. So Cam Dance currently extending his lead over Mick Grievous at the moment, and just going to duck in the lane as well, as we see Ferrucci locking up and really causing Cam to avoid that. So great avoidance there and no damage to either of those 2 cars.
Yeah, Cam having to get on the brakes even more than he would have liked, but Just to be a fuel stop for him, be about a 10 or 11 second stop, given that Interlagos is not typically a high fuel burn circuit, even though you're on the throttle for quite a long time. It's more so that middle part of the lap where you're off the throttle is where you'll certainly see the fuel benefit, as Grieve has just made the overtake on John Peasnick for the 3rd position overall, setting a couple of personal bests last time around for the fastest lap of the race. 26.4, sorry, 26.0. It was about a tenth and a half quicker than Cam Dance's personal best overall.
Yeah, I think we'll see the time starting to fall off just a touch as we go through now. 15 minutes left on the clock. The tyres will be starting to hurt a little bit for all these drivers out there, as we see Greaves taking a very wide line down through turn number 9 on the run up into 10, and trying just to save those fronts, not tipping it in as hard as he needs to, and just getting the most benefit out of those tyres there. But John Peasnick looks to have been falling down a little further off the back of Ferris Stanley as well. That gap really starting to open up, as you see Peasnick in the back of frame there, and he's not overly happy by the looks of it with how that car is performing tonight. So something he'll be able to look and tweak moving forward for the remainder of the week, and we know John will get on top of that issue, if any, very quickly, and we'll look forward to seeing him back out again next week, having another strong showing. But we still got 12 and a half minutes on the clock, so anything can happen. But John sitting pretty comfortable right now in second. Ferris Stanley yet to still come down the lane for his stop tonight, and he's finding himself still second overall in class. So second overall, for Ferris Stanley. So another great run for him as well.
So Guerin is into the pit lane. Was trying to, was it Pacifici? He was battling earlier. So it looks as though the Guerin's made a huge jump. Compared to the driver he was battling just before the pit stop phase. So that's a great effort from Guerin.
Yeah, done very well there to stay ahead there, and look for him to move further up the field. Actually, that gap is quite a lot larger than what we would have anticipated, but doing very well. Might have to jump back here to third and fourth in the GT3 class with Keelan and Barbaros scrapping it out. They're fighting over third and fourth at the moment, and the Audi's starting to come on very strong in the last half of this stint. It's great to see the Audi getting a bit more love, and the guys still running it out on tracks. We see Keelan just getting on the outside through turn 11. Not going to help him here, but will set up a move down in towards turn 12.
Yeah, the Audi getting a decent exit. Let's see if we can go on board. That Merc looking as though he was about to open the door, but with that straight line speed advantage that the Merc has, he'll have to go, the Audi will have to go deep under brakes or try to go around the outside. Or Barcelos going around the outside. That's a huge move. And an awesome overtake from Barcelos to get into the third position.
That's a mega move around the outside. That's got to be overtake of the night so far, for sure. You don't see a lot of the moves like that around the outside there. We'll see if he can hold it down the back straight. Looks like Keelan just not able to get the momentum he needed to get an overtake done. But yeah, that was fantastic driving there for Barcelos in the end.
Yeah, I had to make a similar move to that one. You've got to be very wary of the driver right next to you, especially trying to leave enough space for yourself to get the run through to turn 2. Pretty reminiscent of I would say that maybe with Michael Schumacher trying to go up the inside of Kimi Raikkonen, but that was on the opposite side of the wall. 2006 Formula One race where he retired for the first time in the Ferrari. Just a very direct overtake and forceful enough that didn't put anyone in harm's way or anything like that. It was just straight to the point, and he's already opened up a 9/10 of a second gap, so he's certainly got the pace out there.
Yeah, he's really getting on with it at the moment, so we'll look to see whether he's able to maintain this gap and extend the lead, but at the moment certainly got a lot of pace on board that car. Looks like a little further up, Duncan getting into a scrap as well, over 7th position at the moment, so might see whether we can close in on that in the GTE class. Looks like a little bit of lap traffic with the Daytona prototypes coming through the field as well, but Duncan and Gosling still hammer and tong between each other. They haven't let sight of each other for the last 10 to 15 minutes at the moment. You see Gosling down the inside. Actually, Duncan trying to get down the inside there. Sorry, and he will get the move done on the run out of turn 3. That's a fantastic run for him. But look for Gosling to try and switch back down into turn 4.
Yeah, Gosling up the inside, but not far enough. And Duncan will hold it around the outside. So great defending there from Duncan. As they're coming up to turn number 6, the Ferradura. That's Gosling taking a bit of a tighter line through turn 6 and 7. And then turn 8, the corner where you can take quite a lot of the inside curb there, but you've got to watch out for the slowdown penalty there. Through Big Gettapato. Very deep under brakes for Gosling, and he forces his way through. Great awareness there from Duncan to see that.
Yeah, I think Duncan was really trying for a late apex there to square off that corner. Didn't quite work enough for him there, and a really opportunistic move for Gosling to get back around in the BMW. Duncan not happy with it. The lights are flashing, and he'll be looking to get back up and see whether he can redress that move as well. So keep an eye on that maybe here for the next lap or two, just to see how these two scrap it out. But certainly right now, both very equally matched.
Yeah, certainly this is actually the closest battle in the track for position in class. There's a couple of overall positions that might get sorted out very quickly. Hudson McHale just in the back of the frame there, trying to make a move on Futatsu Uri into turn 4 as well. That is one of the other Porsches jumping through as well.
Yeah, McHale having a strong run back up the field. He had a lot of damage on that car very early in the night after going off in turn 2, lap 1, so it's been a bit of a recovery drive for himself there. Probably a long way down to where he'd ideally like to be, but great to see him still pressing on. Currently 18th position, 20th position, sorry, overall, so a good run for him. Zen Bishop on screen as well. Likewise, a little bit of damage on the front end of that Porsche, which won't help it for turn in there, but these two are getting a little bit closer. The battle will continue to eke out, and they'll start fighting as well.
Yeah, Bishop is, for reference, I think 8 laps down from McHale, so I don't think there will be too much of a fight as Bishop entered the pit lane for a second time. I think Bishop was in the turn 1, lap 1 incident where he started in 4th position, and sadly he has to take to the pit lane once again.
Yeah, it's not a great run there. We'll see whether he's able to get back out and rejoin. This will be, I think, the 3rd stop for him so far, so not a great run there. Chris Harvey up on screen, sitting in 3rd at the moment. Starting to come under fire again from Shannon Williams. You can see him just at the back of frame there. Those two DPs have not been separated by much at all tonight. They're just putting a move on the Audi of Marco Baslos, so we'll see these two get past momentarily here, but not a lot separating these two DPIs at the moment.
Yeah, certainly just looking at the weather once again to see if any of the track conditions have changed, and it looks as though that's been fairly stable. So even though the sun is going down, probably got over an hour until the sun actually falls and we get night time, but we've only got under 4 minutes to go, so not much more I think that will change in terms of the conditions out there, and unless the wind plays a huge factor.
Yeah, I don't expect we'll see a huge amount of issue there. Fiocchi slowly closing up on the back of Renato Habermann in the BMW. There's not a lot between these two, 7/10 of a second. Looks like Habermann just running a little wide there. The BMW maybe just having a little bit of difficulty with the initial turn in mid-corner, and being a longer wheelbase is a little bit slower to rotate through those tighter corners, which could hurt him a little bit overall, but these two are starting to come into a good little scrap. 3 minutes just on the clock. Could potentially see a change of position for 4th and 5th in class.
So this is what 6/10 of a second looks like. Battle for 4th and 5th in the GCEs. Habermann with 29.4, and Fiocchi with a 29.3. So not much gained, but he will be in the slipstream very, very soon if he's able to maintain this pace. Where we are, we're suspecting we've got 2 laps to go for our overall leader, Cam Dance.
Yeah, Cam Dance only just a little bit ahead of these guys. He's working his way through turn 8 at the moment. These guys just entering turn 7, so not too far between them. Cam's got himself a little bit of lap traffic to contend with. Another one of the Daytona prototypes just ahead of him there. So I think that might be second overall that the camera's just put a lap on. So he's moving along quite well at the moment.
Actually, yeah, it was just Shannon Williams, so 3rd position in class. As he's about to come on to the back of Loic Guerin, who's putting a lap on 2nd place driver in GT3, Adam Simpson.
That pit stop for Guerin really helped promote him up the order. Luca Ferrocci, who we saw only about 15 minutes ago, not even that, 10 minutes ago, was ahead here. He's quite a long way back, currently in 5th spot. So Guerin doing a phenomenal job out there with his pit stop.
Yeah, so we've got 30 seconds to go, and I would certainly suspect that this is the final lap of the race. Fiocchi and Habermann battle has opened up to 1.2 seconds, so potentially a small mistake there from Fiocchi, not enabling him to close back up. But we'll stay with Cam Dance, as the timer has elapsed over to 45 minutes, so this will be the final lap of the race. You're coming up in 31 laps at the moment, but it certainly has been dominant to say the least. Certainly expect nothing less of the International Major Series champion for 2019, and Cam Dance will take the overall win for round number 9 of the IMSA Sportscar Championship, and congratulations to him. Mick Grieve is just coming around the final corner now, and certainly a great performance from him to finish just under 20 seconds back from him, from Cam Dance. Actually had the fastest lap of the race in class. Ferris Stanley coming around the final corner for Satellite Racing. Yeah, certainly nothing else you can say about Ferris Stanley. He's gapped John Peasnick, which is certainly no mean feat, to the tune of 8.3 seconds. And he's about to cross the line to take the GTE class win for round number 9 in the IMSA Sportscar Championship, and congratulations to him. Clint Smith as well. Absolutely dominating performance as well. Just trying to find out where the second position is Adam Simpson. He is a good 40 seconds back, so I think that's pretty much everyone that has crossed the line. And we'll be able to bring you the final race results here for round number 9 of the championship here at Interlagos. Just give me 1 second. Little technical issue there. So Cam Dance takes the overall win, 19.9 seconds ahead of Mick Grieve, who finishes well ahead of Ferris Stanley, who takes the GTE class win. Was at 8.6 seconds ahead of John Peasnick. Loic Guerin finishes in third in class, fifth position overall. Shannon Williams takes the sixth position overall and final position on the podium for the Daytona prototype class. Renato Haberman was able to hold off the charging Luca Fiocchi, Tino Gosselin and Thomas Duncan rounding out your top 10. Vincent Martin in 11th. Our GT3 class winner Clint Smith, Giovanni Pacifici in the 13th position, Adam Simpson 14th, second in the GT3 category, Chris Harvey 15th, Marco Barcelos with that outstanding overtake to finish on the podium and finish in 16th place overall. Ronnie Killian in the 17th position, and in 18th, Rui Años. Osmar Schultz in 19th, Futatsu Uri in the 20th position, Hudson McHale 21st, Alexander Campbell in the 22nd position, and Peter Edwards in the 23rd position. And our non-finishers here tonight, Sammy Griffin, Peter Coulson, Fabrice Renault, Vernon Wiley, Zen Bishop, Jim Carr, Pateri Alto, Ola Sandqvist, Lucas Rowland, Andreas Hecht, Mehmet Sadikoglu, and Taylor Nabaum, who sadly I don't think took the start here, being that he was 31 laps down from our leader here tonight.
No, I don't think so. And it looks like we've got GT3 class winner Clint Smith in the waiting room there, so we might bring him up and have a chat just to find out how things unfolded for himself. Another dominant win for him in that GT3. So, g'day, Clint. Welcome to the commentary box, mate. Congratulations on another outstanding win tonight here at Interlagos. Carr and yourself working perfectly once again and opening up a huge lead over Adam Simpson. It was looked very easy out there and comfortable.
Yeah, good evening, guys. Tonight pretty much went to plan. So just as always, make a gap and then take it easy after that. So it was a bit hairy there at the start of that race there, though, with that incident on turn one. There was GTE cars everywhere, so I didn't really know where to go. But I managed to find their hole and make it through without any damage.
Yeah, we'll give us your take on that, because we noticed off the start of the grid you'd left a lot of space between the GTE field, and coming into the turn one relatively blind, it must have been a bit eye-opening for you. Was there any issue at all getting through that, or just good awareness?
Yeah, no, not really. It's obviously at Interlagos. There's usually inters on turn one, so that's why I made sure there was a big enough gap. But and all you see when you come up to that first corner is a yellow flag on your screen, and you just like you have no idea where the cars are. So I pretty much backed right off, and yeah, like there was the cars pretty much were off the track anyway. So, but there was a couple coming back on and things like that. So I was like a bit hesitant to put my foot down. So, but the guys behind me in GT3 as well, they were pretty smart as well. So they didn't just try and come flying through. So, big thanks to those guys as well for doing that.
Yeah, definitely. It certainly makes it a bit easier with everyone keeping an eye on what's going on out in front. Once you got through that, though, how did you find the car for the remainder of the night? Looked very competitive again, as always. Able to mix it up with some of the GTE fielders we've seen traditionally over the last few races. How did you find the car going on, especially the tyres over the length of the 45-minute race?
Yeah, well, obviously with not having any rear pressure applied to me, I was able to conserve the tires a fair bit and just roll into the corner and not use the ABS too much and things like that. So I was able to just pretty much cruise tonight. So the tires were fine. So when I did the race earlier today, I was suffering from a bit of understeer as the race went on. So, but yeah, tonight there was none of that. Just obviously because I could take it easy. So, but yeah, I don't know what it is about this Merc now. I seem to have found a sweet spot with the setup now, which has definitely made me a lot more competitive, not just in the Tuesday night racing, but overall in the official series. So I'm having a lot of fun in this Merc. So yeah,
No, well, certainly. I mean, since we saw you first taking outing in it at Catalonia, certainly come on leaps and bounds with the quality of the setup. You're able to get on board with it, and evident tonight again. I think you're 40 seconds or so up the road. So, really nailing the setup. Next week, we move off. I think it's to Detroit. Certainly a different circuit to the smooth run of Interlagos. Anything you can potentially do to help the car get around there, especially with the tricky nature of the circuit?
just do a lot of laps. I haven't driven on Bell Island since it first was released, and I was in the Audi as well. I believe it was a long time ago. So it's going to be a different experience in the Merc. So just yeah, just do what I've been doing, do a lot of practice laps, and yeah, just make sure I nail the setup once more.
Fantastic, mate. Well, before we let you go and enjoy the celebrations again, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and a thanks to?
Yeah, as always, thanks to yourself, Daniel, and Scott and Apex TV for broadcasting tonight. Thanks to CSE Sports, my own solo team. I'm a solo driver, so yep, Joel Real Timing, Virtual Racing School, and Kokoda Factory. Those guys get it done for me. And big thanks to the GT3 guys as well coming out. So a good field of 11 or so cars. So it's a lot of fun. So thanks to those guys.
No worries. Thank you very much, Clint. Again, congratulations on the win, mate, and look forward to seeing you out at Detroit Belle Island next week.
No problem, guys. See you then. Have a good one.
That was Clint Smith, class winner in the GT3 tonight, taking an extremely dominant win, as we've come to sort of expect now a bit. He's thereabouts and really getting on with that car.
Yeah, certainly been one of the dominant forces this season, at least in this split for the iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship. As we've come to see, heading up to next week, as you say, Detroit, Belle Isle, certainly one of those trickier tracks with the close nature of the walls, but also it's very very bumpy in places. How do you think that the drivers will be able to fare there next week?
Look, I think it's certainly going to be a track that's going to require a lot of mindset change from what we've seen weeks gone by. It's very technical and tricky, being a tight, twisty street circuit. You really got no room for error, and I think getting the car right, especially through turn 1 and 2, where you've got quite a gradual sweep to the left and then to the right and then back to the left, always very tricky, especially as you crest that turn or the little hump in the road there. We saw India, I think it was this year, one of the pace car going around and colliding the wall. So if you're doing it just at road car speed, very easy. You can also do the same likewise in the race cars. So I think the guys will get on top of it. The setup's going to require a lot of finesse to get the most out of the ride control through the bumps and in towards the braking zone. But looking at how well these guys are getting the car set up now, I don't think it'll be too much of a drama for them.
Certainly. Just going to quickly bring up what's coming up on Apex Racing TV later on tonight. We have the BSR MX5 Pro Series. That'll be on the iRacing Esports Network at 8 p.m. GMT. Then on the Wednesday night we have the Sim Racers World GT Championship as well on the iRacing Esports Network. That'll be on at 8 p.m. and the ARL TCR Championship as well at the same time of 8 p.m. GMT. Then on the Friday night we have the NTT official iRacing IndyCar series that will be at 8 p.m. GMT on Friday night at Mosport for round number 9 of the championship. On Saturday night we have the iRacing Formula Renault 3.5 championship at Donington Park, and that'll be on the Saturday night at 8 p.m. GMT. Sunday night Australian Eastern Daylight Time, 9:45 a.m. GMT. We've got the round number 9 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT series for sprint round at Twin Ring Motegi. It was a cracking race, that one at Twin Ring Motegi. Certainly one of my favourites. And then on the Monday night we have the Ricmatec GT Challenge for round number 6 of the championship at Virginia International Raceway, and then we'll be back for the iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship for week number 10 at Belle Isle at the same time as always, 8:45 a.m. GMT. So a lot of cracking racing coming up on both here on Apex Racing TV and the iRacing Esports Network. So be sure to like and subscribe to both of the channels to be notified of upcoming broadcasts.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly looking forward to everything going on ahead for that. But I don't think there's much more for us here. So, Scott, thank you very much for providing a lead on this one and cameras for the night. To all the viewers tuning in. And congratulations to our 3 winners in class. Another outstanding run for them. But for all of us here, I think that will do us for the night. So we'll look forward to catching you next week for another broadcast.